Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 2021 Candidate Forum for candidates for Fort Mill Town Council, Wards 1 and 3, as well as at-large seats. I'm Lucas McFadden, anchor and producer for CN2 News and co-host of WRHI's Palmetto Mornings, and I'll be your moderator today. Tonight's forum is co-sponsored by the York County Regional Chamber of Commerce, along with the Fort Mill Economic Partners, and we're very delighted to be serving here in the town of Fort Mill. Tonight, we will hear from the five candidates aiming to fill 2 town council seats and 1 at-large seat. All races will be determined on Election Day. Mark your calendars, which is Tuesday, November the 2nd, 2021. As moderator, my job is just to make sure that we could keep the candidate forum moving forward and to keep up with the rotation of the candidate response and questions. The source of the questions I'll be asking the candidates, well, they come from the Chamber's Fort Mill TKK Area Council Board, as well as the Fort Mill Economic Partners Board and the general public. Chamber staff compiled the questions which have remained secure and not known by the candidates until a few minutes from now. Here are the rules for tonight's forum. After a 60-second opening statement, there will be 6 to 8 questions posed by me, the moderator, to the council candidates with a response time limit of 60 seconds. The same questions will be directed to all candidates, and each candidate will have the opportunity to answer a question first. The order determination will be the same, numerical by ward seat and then alphabetical by last name, with the order rotated throughout the event. Candidates will be notified of response statement time remaining by display of a yellow screen with 15 seconds remaining and a red screen when time expires on the iPad right in front of you. Once time expires, a soft alarm will go off indicating that time is up, along with the red screen. Candidates will not be allowed to continue answering any question after that time has expired, but we will allow you to wrap up your thought. In delivering open statements and answering questions, candidates are encouraged to focus on the issues. Candidates will not be allowed to use electronic devices, cell phones, tablets, laptops during the forum. And there will be rebuttals, and we'll take those as they come about. So let's get started. The opening statements, all are again 60 seconds, and we'll begin with the candidate first, Alan Garrison, excuse me.
Well, thank you, and I'm honored to be here. My name's James Allen Garrison. I go by Allen Garrison. I'm a longtime Fort Mill resident. I'm a small business owner. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm a church member, First Baptist here in town. Fort Mill is home. This is where my family we've set our roots down, and this is where we want to be for a long time to come. And just for too long, I've watched the town make decisions that I just feel like I could have made better decisions or had better inputs into it. So that's why I feel it was time for me to get into it and to let my voice be known and to help represent the town. So I'm excited to be up here, and thank you everybody here as well for being here. And I think this is going to be a great hour and a half. And thank you.
All right. We'll continue with opening statements. Moving to Christopher Powers, Ward 1.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for putting this on. Thank everybody for being here. And yeah, Christopher Powers for Ward 1. Chris is fine. Thank you very much. I decided to run for council. I am not a politician. First and foremost is why I should be running for council. I think we need some real people in positions. I would like to see a lot of responsible development happening in this town. The opportunity for development is obvious. It's not going to stop no matter what we do. And I would like to see a lot of accountability for the people making decisions for us. I want to be a voice for all of Fort Mill. Again, I've been here for a while myself. I love it here, and I want to make it a better place for everyone. And my time's almost up. Thank you again. Appreciate it.
We'll move on to the Ward 1 incumbent, James Shirey.
My name is James Shirey. I have had the pleasure and responsibility of representing Ward 1, Fort Mill, for the past 8 years. I'd love your vote to continue another 4 years. My family and I moved here about 12 years ago from South Florida to raise my daughter in the Carolinas. I grew up in Raleigh, North Carolina for the majority of my life, and living in the Carolinas isn't just where you're from, it's part of who you are, and I wanted my daughter to have that same experience. Not only do I serve on the town council, but I also serve on the Fort Mill History Museum board and I've also served on the Fort Mill Economic Partners Board with a good friend and retiring Councilman Larry Huntley, and I would love to get back with that group again. They do fantastic work, as well as the chamber. Some of the accomplishments that we have done in the town, and I say we because there's no solo acts in the town. It's all done by group, and we all pull our own weight. Lowering taxes, we have the lowest tax rate in this area. We've strengthened our relationships with other community holders, and that's my time. Thank you.
Ward 3, Ben Hudgens.
Hey, my name is Ben Hudgens, native Fort Million. I've served on the Board of Zoning Appeals with the town for the last 5 years, and then on the Town Planning Commission for the last 8 years. So I feel like I'm very much in touch with the movement that's going on in town, some of the challenges that are to be expected in the next few years. Raised a family here, got 2 daughters that have since graduated college, and we're kind of empty nesters now. We could go anywhere, but I choose to stay here. I love my town, love the people, seeing people I grew up with. Seeing people at church that were your school teachers and people you've known all your life. So I do it for a passion of the town. I really enjoy that part and feel like from having that background with the town, having served for so many years, that it would be a great fit to have the honor to move up into town council and work with some of the leaders we have now to shape Fort Mill for the future.
Thank you very much. We'll move to the at-large candidates. We'll begin with Matt Villardebo.
Hi, good evening. My name's Matt Villardebo. I moved to Fort Mill in 2017 with my family. A job opportunity brought me here working at the paper mill down in Catawba. We chose Fort Mill. We could have moved anywhere within this region. We chose Fort Mill because we love this place. My wife is a Fort Mill school teacher. My son is a 2020 Nation Forward High School graduate, and my daughter is enrolled at Catawba Ridge High School. We are a part of this community, and we love Fort Mill. I've seen some things happening here that are reminiscent of what I saw go on where I lived back in Tampa for years, where the growth just gets to a point where the infrastructure isn't keeping up. We have a lot of dead-end sidewalks in this town. We have new schools without crosswalks. Those are the sort of issues that are important to me. I'm also finding other issues when I talk to people related to affordable housing in this town. So I'm definitely looking more forward to being the kind of candidate who's in touch with the citizens.
Thank you very much. And Chris Wolf.
My name is Chris Wolf, and I'm running for the at-large seat. I'm not a speaker nor a politician, but I am a citizen that's invested a lifetime in this community. I grew up in the Fort Mill schools and churches. My wife of 32 years and I raised our children in Fort Mill. I've also experienced the rapid growth. I'm now running for the City Council to help retain and protect the charm, culture, and sense of community that makes this a great place to live and raise a family. I learned at a young age it's important to get involved and support your community. And guess that is one of the many reasons I've been actively involved in various volunteer committees with the town for more than 14 years. My experience includes involvement in several long-range planning committees, 4 years on the Board of Zoning Appeals, 10 years on the Planning Commission. I'd like to utilize this knowledge I've gathered through these engagements to guide Fort Mill forward in partnership with other civic entities.
Thank you very much. That wraps up our opening statements. We'll then move into the question part of today's candidate forum. Again, you will each have a chance to go first. This first question will go to Mr. Powers. We'll go down the line, and then we'll wrap up with Mr. Garrison. So here's question number 1. The time will begin once, obviously, I get through reading the question. Question number 1, infrastructure. We often hear that the need for infrastructure improvements are needed. So how do you define infrastructure and how it applies to the town of Fort Mill? Do you believe in raising taxes to pay for new infrastructure?
I'd like to find a way to allocate the resources better than just going ahead and raising taxes. One of the things as I searched for being a candidate for this position, I found out that we're buying our water from Rock Hill, and we're locked into a 30-year contract that we're 8 years in, and we're selling our water to TKK. I found out recently that price has gone up, and it seems like we're kind of upside down on that deal. Things like that is what I'd like to look at. and consider what we can do better for Fort Mill, and make sure that we have the money to afford these infrastructure changes we need to do. I also believe that with the businesses we're bringing in and luring into the territory, we need to make sure they're responsible to pay their fair share of making those changes happen.
Thank you very much. Same question, Mr. Shirey.
We unfortunately, we're dealing with a lot of growth right now. We are doing our best to catch up. We're about 25 years behind the 8 ball as the towns are supposed to progress and go. We were fortunate enough to have some people in the community who were limping us along, but now we're kind of on our own. As the new infrastructure and things that have helped the town, we just spent $40 million on a new wastewater treatment plant, which is going swimmingly well. We put in a new water tower. We've been replacing water and sewer lines throughout the area. We do buy our water from Rock Hill. There isn't anything we can do about that, though, because unfortunately we do not have access to the river as to where a water treatment plant would come from for drinkable water. I was also one of the ones who voted in the impact fee, which causes new construction and new growth to pay for itself. So we're slowly coming out of the hole that was left for us 20 years ago.
Thank you very much. Same question, Mr. Hudgens.
Sure. I'm very familiar with that aspect. I know one of the things that is a primary focus of mine would be the impact fees. I'm very familiar with that process, was involved in the group that we spent a lot of hours studying and batting around a lot of ideas before those fees were actually implemented. Those can only be used for 4 different things: for recreation, for fire, for municipality, and for transportation. Some of those are discounted at different rates. I feel like the residential portion should be raised and be something where growth pays for growth. Impact fees are very positive. They help pay for the new fire department out at the new high school at Catawba Ridge. So that's something that was worked with the town, and a place where the impact fees really did something positive. So there's a lot of good things to be done there.
Thank you very much. Same question to Mr. Villardo.
I've done some cursory research, and I do know there are several federal programs that allocate monies to small towns like Fort Mill to make some improvements that would make for better pedestrian safety and bicycle safety and things like that. I'm aware of the impact fees, and I do know those are helpful. And the good thing about impact fees is they don't have to be stuck at a rate. Those can be moved. As far as raising taxes, I don't necessarily support that or think that's the direction this town should move in right now. But that's what I've got on that.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wolf.
So infrastructure, you want to talk about capital purchases, a lot of that, as Mr. Hudgens mentioned, the Planning Commission is the one who actually did the study on the impact fees. It's very in-depth involvement on how you calculate that. There's actually 4 impact fees that were implemented: fire protection, municipality, facilities and equipment, parks and rec, and there was one for streets. And we set the rates, and we set up a discount in the beginning. Those have been, since then, have been discounted more. Currently, fire protection is at 51%, facilities and equipment is at 56%, and parks and rec is at 10%. So I think we need to look at that. And streets are 100%. And that was done to help bring commercial growth in. It's definitely something we need to look at, because one of the main complaints people have is the streets. So that's definitely something, having the growth pay for growth is something we would definitely want to look at early on.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Garrison.
To kind of echo what's been said, no, I do not think that the taxes should be raised to help pay for the infrastructure. I do agree with Mr. Shirey that our infrastructure is definitely way behind. And it seems like, at least the perception is, again, as somebody who's not in politics now, is that as soon as we do something to try to bring our infrastructure up to par, we add a couple thousand more homes, and it just puts us right behind the 8 ball. Like Mr. Wolf said about the impact fees, he gave the percentages. The actual dollar amounts, it's been lowered down. We are less than a third of what TGK is charging for their same impact fees. TGK's at $6,600 and we're at barely $2,000. So I do think growth needs to pay for itself. Will it pay for itself completely? No, but it'll definitely help. But the impact fees are also, they're just a small portion of it. I do think if we tried to slow down some of the growth, that would help us also catch up a little bit too.
Thank you very much. We'll move to question 2. Again, a minute response from each of the candidates. We'll begin with Mr. Shirey. Time will begin once I read the question and you begin speaking. Taxes. Since it's been well documented, most people realize that businesses and not individuals carry most of the tax burden. What would you recommend to lessen or reduce the tax burden on our local businesses?
Well, at the beginning of the year, we voted to lower our taxes from 84 mills to 76 mills to help everybody. As COVID hit, right in the middle of the town, tried to do everything they could to bring everybody up. As to the millage, as it goes for businesses and manufacturing and everything that's in the town, they follow the same suit as we do. We don't want to lose any of our businesses. We want to keep them moving and growing. That's why we shut Main Street down for the past 8 weeks so that they could push tables and chairs out into the streets, bring in more people into the restaurants and into the storefronts. We've done everything that we could for, and I'm going to pick US Food as one of them, so that their employees were safe in going into to make sure that they had everything that they needed, mask-wise or whatnot, if they could not get it. Being the town, we kind of are a little ahead of everybody else, so we're able to get resources that other people normally would not get. I think right now we're sitting at a sweet spot at 76. I don't see us raising it or lowering it at any more at that point. Growth is taking care of it on its own.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Hudgens.
Sure. Definitely would not support any type of increase in taxes to the citizens of Fort Mill. I think that going back to some of the things I'd mentioned earlier, growth should pay for growth. I think it should be something that would not be impactful on the businesses in a negative way. It's great to have those conveniences. All of these people that are moving to the Fort Mill area, they like to have the conveniences of stores and coffee shops and small markets and little places on Main Street and things like that. So I would not be supportive of something that was a burden on the businesses. I think it should be the residential growth that should pay for that portion of it, and would support things in a lot of way. The infrastructure we had mentioned earlier, but I think that should be something that would be the way to raise funds and not raise taxes for the citizens of Fort Mill at all.
Thank you very much. Mr. Villardebo.
Again, I think we're going to see a similar theme here. I do not support raising taxes on anyone in Fort Mill, particularly our businesses. The impact fees are providing, and I have mentioned previously that those impact fees can change. They don't have to stay. So I just think that's a better way to kind of manage those issues. I don't see pushing out businesses by increasing taxes as a way to build our city up.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wolf.
I'm going to take a little different tact on that. So we've been blessed with all this residential growth, and we really need to grow our commercial base. And if to do that, we need to support our local merchants and the local companies. So obviously taxing them is not going to be not the right solution. The impact fees also, as mentioned, there's discounts are in there to help bring in businesses. But it's very interesting that uptown, the rebirth we've had of that is significant growth in that area. Now we've got a parking issue uptown, which we would have never thought was going to be an issue. So one of the things we need to do to help support them, the merchants would be, provide services that they can't provide for themselves. So it would be parking or whatever. There again, the impact fees can only be used for certain things, and then beyond that's operational expenses, which is the burden is on is mostly residential right now. But we definitely want to see if we can grow the commercial base.
Thank you very much. Mr. Garrison.
Sure. I'm a small business owner, and taxes is one of the things that keeps me awake at night, as it is now. And definitely with what's being talked about in Washington of raising corporate tax rates and everything. That's scaring me as it is. So as a town, raising taxes on businesses, absolutely not. I think honestly, if we do anything, we should go the other direction. We should lower the taxes on our local businesses. It's been proven time and time again that if you lower that burden, you'll actually end up bringing in more income, more tax revenue in the long run. However we do that, different ways we can do that. But like Chris said, supporting local businesses, offering some sort of incentive to mom and pop businesses, to local businessmen, businesswomen, to bring in more businesses downtown, not necessarily a corporate atmosphere. So I definitely think that's something we should be looking at. So not raising, but thinking about lowering taxes for local businesses.
And Mr.
If
Powers.
you don't mind, I'd ask you to repeat the question, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
Taxes. Since it's been well documented, most people realize that businesses and not individuals carry most of the tax burden. What would you do, or what would you recommend to lessen or reduce the tax burden on our local businesses?
I don't know that that's the answer, and I say that because I don't know, right? I'm not up here making these decisions every day. I want to be, right? But as far as lowering the taxes, I think we should find different solutions. It's going to be different for a larger municipality than it is here. One of the big problems we have is, as a few mentioned, Main Street. There was a plan in place to make Main Street one way. When I met with the town manager, they told me that that had stalled. There was some bureaucracy thing that went down that makes it almost impossible. I'd rather figure out how we can fix that, put some pressure there, make Main Street one way, expand what we have there, find parking like Mr. Wolf said, and bring more people into Main Street. It should be way bigger than it is. It has huge potential. And as a business owner myself, if it came down to it, I'd rather pay more taxes.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to question 3. Mr. Hudgens, you'll begin this round. Question number 3, connectivity. While the town of Fort Mill and our surrounding area has experienced enormous growth, we still have a footprint that lends itself to better connectivity and walkability. How or what will you do to move the needle to improve connectivity and walkability within the town of Fort Mill?
Yeah, very familiar with that. Like I mentioned, on the 8 years of serving with the Planning Commission, that's something that's come up very frequently, and in looking at developments and plans and site plans that we've looked at, there are a lot of different pockets of growth that are coming up in Fort Mill, or designated nodes that are intended to do that with. So the idea has been, as we look at those sites, to have the little offset that is meant to connect with another business beside of it, so that you have less people that go out on the road and back in. I know has been a lot of effort in every development that we've looked at to address, like the Carolina Thread Trail, to bring that into place and have more walkability, and which connects all over. I think there's 8 or 9 counties, I believe, that's connected with. So just to make it a more pleasant, more small town feel, but from the Thread Trail side, but still have something with interconnectivity. That's definitely been being looked at with the Planning Commission on a regular basis. So,
All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Villardeau.
As an avid hiker, I love all the green space here. The neighborhood I live in has some private hiking trails in it, and I just think that's so unique. I've never seen that before in Florida. So I love that about Fort Mill, and I was super excited, for lack of a better term, when I heard that the Carolina Thread Trail had joined up with the ASC Greenway here recently, or will soon to be. So those are some great ideas. There's a lot more opportunity here to do that. How that works, well, I don't exactly have all the right answers for that. I have, again, looked into some federal monies, and they're out there. There's a program called Infra that allows for federal funds for growing pedestrian and bicycle trails.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wolf.
So as Mr. Hudgens mentioned, this is something we battle with pretty much every time new development comes up and push for it. So we want to make the town more pedestrian and bike friendly. This will require new development to allocate space for walkability within the neighborhood, and also to connect to existing trails. I mentioned the Carolina Thread Trail is a great one. I think Pineville's done an awesome job of using their sewer lines and floodplains to connect that. The Catawba River is another very unique opportunity. It's, not many towns have such a wonderful natural resource that could be a focal point. With the sale and development of the Spratt property, which is known as Elizabeth, a nature trail down on the bottom, there's along the river, similar to Riverwalk, would be wonderful. Matter of fact, in one of the 25-year plans, there was a design to tie in Mason's Bend through the under the old bridge, up through the old roadbed, up meandering up Spratt Street to tie into downtown. So a lot of that pieces are coming together, and we're continuing to try to work and make them match.
Thank you very much. Mr. Garrison.
Connectivity is definitely something we need to address. I live kind of in the old part of Fort Mill here, real close to Mr. Wolf, and we walk, ride our bicycles, golf cart, just about anywhere downtown. And it wasn't honestly until I started going out, knocking on doors, meeting people, that I realized that the other side of town, the Doby's Bridge, that whole corridor right there is completely cut off from the rest of town. How difficult would it be? Again, like I said, I'm sure there's ideas out there to connect that, sidewalks, whatever it could be, to connect the whole corridor. Right now, we just have little pockets of little neighborhoods, White Grove, areas like that, Waterside, where they're just isolated. And if they want to come down, what do they have to do? They have to get in their car, they have to come and drive, and they have to park here. That goes back to the parking issue. If we were connected, like if you've ever been to Hilton Head, you can ride a bicycle anywhere you want to go down there. Connect the town together through paths like that, and we can help and eliminate the traffic issue too.
Thank you very much. Mr. Powers.
Short and simple answer. New development needs to have connectivity in mind. They need to put in the bike lanes, they need to put in the walking trails. It all relies on the new development. Once we get that taken care of, we can consider connecting the rest of the town. Until we stop growing, it's not going to be resolved.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Shirey.
It's crazy that I couldn't even walk my daughter to the elementary school, that I could literally hit with a rock from my backyard. We have some amazing trails here. The town is actually working to expand the trails, rehab some of the trails, repave some of the trails. The bad thing is with sidewalks, though, we can't put sidewalks on private property. Now, we did have a couple really good partnerships with the county and some private down near White, that where the new Catawba Ridge High School, where we could pave that out. But other than that, we're kind of left in a lynch as if we can put a sidewalk in on my property, your property, someone else's property without their permission. And a lot of people don't want it. That being said, though, we are very excited about the Carolina Thread Trail coming in. We're working extensively with them. We're thinking about revamping the impact fee. That's came up a couple different times. The road one really doesn't generate a whole lot of money to fix a road, but it would be a phenomenal resource to put in sidewalks. So we're looking at reworking the language that are in that so that we can pull the money into a sidewalk or trail system as opposed to road network.
Thank you very much. We'll move now to question number 4. Mr. Villardo, you'll begin this round of questioning. Question number 4, quality of life. It has become a common buzzword phrase, and every town and community brags about how they are improving it for their citizens. How would you rate Fort Mill's quality of life, and what specific initiatives do you plan to bring to council to further improve our quality of life?
Quality of life. So I don't know how I'd rate that. Is that on a scale of 1 to 10? I mean, maybe a 7, maybe a 6. I don't really know how to rate that. How to fix that, how to improve it, we kind of touched on it earlier. We got to connect this town more. I live in White Grove, that was mentioned previously. I don't like driving. I like walking. So to be able to walk to the Walmart neighborhood market would be amazing, but I can't do that because there's no safe travel path from White Grove to Walmart neighborhood market. The kids in the neighborhood like to walk to the Valero, but depending on whether or not the grass has been mowed, they're going to have to trek through the weeds. Those kind of issues are a way we can improve quality of life in this town for sure. Improve bike trails, get this town connected more so that people who want to get from A to B here, it's just a mile from downtown to my house, but I got to drive here.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wolf.
I think quality of life is a lot of things. It's kind of hard to answer that in 60 seconds. But Fort Mill has you check all the boxes where you want to, where do you want to live? You're close to the, 2 hours from the coast, 3 hours from the mountains. We've got 4 seasons. We're close to a major city. We're right here at close to the lake. You've got great schools. You've got a great community. We have that, and I think what we need to do is try to control losing that. Is one of the reasons I'm running to talk about the culture and the history and the community. And I have to ask people, I said, have you ever come downtown during July the 4th and see them fire the cannons? No, I didn't know they do that. There's only a few places in the world you can enjoy something like that. It's a great community event. Have you been to the new amphitheater? They've had 2 great events out there. Those are the types of things, the scarecrow crawl, that's what really makes this part of the community that people want to be in. We've got all the assets. We need to work to not lose those assets is what we need to focus on.
Thank you very much. Mr. Garrison.
Quality of life, I think Fort Mill, I think it has it. I think we, scale of 10, put us at an 11. We have, we're close to Charlotte. I can be at my office in Charlotte in less than 10 minutes most morning. We've got some of the best schools in the country. We've got an amazing, growing, thriving downtown. We've got the beautiful new amphitheater. We're going to be holding concerts and events and everything else. I think we have that. Should we stop there? No, I think we should be thriving and trying to continue to improve that. We have something here in Fort Mill that no one else can say they have. We have the Greenway. How amazing is that you have this beautiful piece of property here that will stay pristine like that? People want to be here. People want to come here because we do have an amazing quality of life. I do think it needs to go back to the streets and to the sidewalks and everything. The walkability, again, being able to get from the other side of town that's completely isolated from all these without having to drive. Our fire and police, keeping up the amazing work that they're doing. I'm a former firefighter, and that means a lot to me as well.
Thank you very much. Mr. Powers?
I have to agree wholeheartedly with Mr. Garrison. I would say it's 10, 11 at least. I love it here. My family loves it here. My son went to Fort Mill High School, and the band at Fort Mill High School changed his life. He lost his mother to 2015, and he was a destroyed little boy. The band and this community brought him back to life, right? This is my home. We were going to lose that quality of life that we like so much if we don't fight the development that is not happening responsibly. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Shirey?
I believe we got a fabulous way of life. That's why everybody wants to move here. I mean, we are the pinnacle of what a small town community should be. With new people coming in, I make it a point of mine. When you move into my neighborhood, I introduce you and I indoctrinate you. This is how we roll in Fort Mill. You're not in a big city anymore. We like to take a little bit slower. We like to open up our garage doors and share a beverage and watch our kids ride bikes and play. The Greenway is a great asset. We have great schools. The amphitheater that we just put in the into Walter Elijah, our farmers market that we have. If you keep looking for a yellow car, you're always going to see a yellow car. If you keep on looking for a problem, you're always going to see the problem. You're never going to see the advantages that we hold, which I think we have fabulous advantages and fabulous resources here in Fort Mill. It just, are we able to wake up and see it and take advantage of it and grow and prosper with it together?
Thank you very much. And Mr. Hudgens?
I would objectively give Fort Mill a 9.5, and the reason I wouldn't go that extra half is because I think you always need room for improvement in everything you do. So just like reviewing my employees when it comes to that time, there's always a need to strive and be a little better. I think the quality of life is fantastic in Fort Mill. Love this town. There's a reason the population growth, according to the last census, is over 24,000. I think walking up Main Street, picking strawberries at the strawberry patch, getting peaches out of the peach stand, that's a great thing that I love about it. A lot of little small towns all over the country would love to have our problems. And where we're at now, we've got a great opportunity to lead the town in a different direction. Not that it's bad the way it is, but just I think we can always make it better. But again, love this town, love the quality of life here, love waving at people going up and down the street.
Thank you very much. We'll begin question number 5 for this round, and we'll begin with Mr. Wolf. Growth. The Charlotte Regional Business Alliance recently released its 2050 growth projections and determined York County will grow by 99%, taking us from 282,000 to more than 550,000 by the year 2050. What is your opinion on how to deal with this growth, and how can the town of Fort Mill work better with York County government to affect growth that may occur just outside of the municipality's boundaries?
So I mentioned earlier that I've served on several 25-year planning committees, and that's one of the things we always would look at. And Mr. Hudgens mentioned the Fort Mill Parkway actually has nodes on there, which are higher density areas with a lesser density kind of moving out. So it's designed, some of that's designed in there where we're going to go. So Fort Mill Parkway is also a good example that that's already designed to be 5 lanes. But the people say, why did you build it? 5 lanes? Well, it was going nowhere at the time, but we are looking forward and planning for that. There's also been plans on putting another bridge in the 25-year plans further down, like a lot of traffic comes up through Indian Land, which would be what, the 8th or 9th largest town in South Carolina if incorporated. So all that traffic's coming back up through here. So I think planning is a big part of that. I've got some very specific things I'd like to address in the zoning codes if I get on council to help with that. But people fail to plan; they don't plan to fail, and so that's why we need to make sure that we prepare ourselves for the growth that's going to come.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garrison.
So the growth, it goes back to the previous question, the quality of life. The reason that the last projection was 68.3% growth for Fort Mill in the 10 years, and that was from 2018, I think. Our roads are at capacity now. If you've been around at rush hour, morning or afternoon, or try to go on 160 at lunchtime trying to go to Chick-fil-A, you notice it's bumper to bumper as it is. Where are these additional folks going to go? We don't have the capacity in our roads to handle that growth as it is now. Now, there's a lot we can do inside the city limits here on the council, but as soon as you step outside of the actual city limits and go inside the township, there's all kinds of growth there. That goes to the county. We really need to be working with York County on these issues and what they're approving right outside the city limits, as well as other local municipalities.
Thank you very much. Mr. Powers.
Couldn't agree more about having to work with the county. If we can't find some partners in the county to agree on how we should grow responsibly, we're set up for failure. One of the biggest things that I wanted to bring up tonight at all was that I've shook a lot of hands, I've met a lot of people, and everyone has a complaint about the growth. We all we've all moved here because we love it and we like the schools and we like the taxes or whatever we like, but we want the growth to stop after that. It's not gonna happen. It's going to grow. It has to be responsible. If you're going to complain, you need to show up. I'm speaking to the town of Fort Mill at this point. You need to come to meetings. You need to look at what's going on. I guarantee you, most people do not know when the Elizabeth Project was voted on and who voted how. I would like to make sure people know when there's a big decision to be made for the town.
Thank you very much. Mr. Shirey.
The town is actually getting a lot better at communicating with the county now that the county had a couple seats that flipped. We've actually stopped them from building apartments. Any apartment that you run across, none of them are in the town line. In the past 8 years, they've all been built in the county. We have a great program, Pennies for Progress, that helps do with roads. You can see the new work that's being done at the bottom of Spratt and the bypass. That's phase 2 of that. And as I think one of the gentlemen already said, we actually own right of way to make that a 5-lane. We just wanted to get the road open first, and then we'll 5-lane it as the time goes. And actually the development, Elizabeth down there, is paying to have that section 5-laned. That's all part of the growth paying for growth. We need a bridge somewhere on the east side of Fort Mill before you get into Fort Mill, because 90% of the traffic that's coming out of here is coming from Indian Land down 521. We need to connect them into Rock Hill or back up on the 77 so that they do not have to come through Fort Mill, because we don't own Main Street. And I think this gentleman asked me about one-waying Main Street. We would love the Main Street, thinking that would curb in the traffic. we don't own Main Street. We can't do anything to it without DOT permission.
And that's time. Thank you very much. Mr. Hudgens.
A lot to cover. The growth is unavoidable. I was told by the mayor, one of the former mayors, that the growth is never going to stop. We just need to be more mindful of how it's done. Try to be good stewards of that. Working with the county, I think that's been a common theme to work with them. They're pushing or allowing maximum density, putting in apartment complexes. That has to stop. We have to work with them closer because the burden falls on us, our school district, our fire departments, and things like that. You can't stop the sale of land if you have what you see a lot, especially down Dobie's Ridge Road, and a lot in Fort Mill, is people who have inherited land. Their grandparents have passed away, their parents have passed away, so there's an opportunity to make a lot of money and move on. But what you have to do is be mindful of how that's going to grow. Elizabeth, the way that vote went, the reason it was brought into the town, because otherwise it was going to Rock Hill. And I've told that to so many people that had no idea, that don't show up, at meetings or may not be a part of that, they would be using our roads and things instead of us being able to use them.
Thank you so much. That's time. And Mr. Villardebo.
Growth is unavoidable in this town. It's going to continue, but it is something that should be better managed. I see a lot of rework happening in this town on some things, especially related to some of the bigger construction projects, namely the schools out on the Fort Mill Southern Bypass there. But people are going to come here, and we don't want to hang the "we're closed" sign, right? That's not how we operate a town. A town's not a business. But there's solutions to this. And I do agree that working with the county is better. We're not necessarily being served by the county under the current way the seat is for that county commissioner that serves Fort Mill. It'd be nice to see that district change to better represent Fort Mill, maybe somebody on the council, that is from Fort Mill or within Fort Mill boundaries. So that's it.
Thank you very much. We'll begin our sixth question with Mr. Garrison. The question, economic prosperity. What is the biggest hurdle facing Fort Mill toward continued economic prosperity, and how do we compare to other municipalities facing a similar issue?
Well, I think it goes, again, like I said, supporting the local businesses. Again, I'm a big proponent of, like I said, a tax cut, a tax rebate for local businesses to try to encourage more growth. Obviously, the corporate businesses, we need those as well, and I think the town has done a great job of developing a culture to bring in more businesses. And I think this needs to be a place where you can live and you can work. And I think, like I said, just finding ways to encourage that will definitely help the town moving forward.
I'm a real person. There's a whole bunch of bicycles coming by. I got completely distracted. Please repeat the question, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Question number 6, economic prosperity. What is the biggest hurdle facing Fort Mill toward continued economic prosperity, and how do we compare to other municipalities facing similar issues?
I have no idea how we compare to other municipalities. But as far as us continuing to be prosperous, we need to support the businesses that are coming in. And we need to make sure that the businesses we bring in are good for the town, and they're going to be beneficial and to our quality of life, and continue to be there for us, to be a part of the community, not just a company that's going to come, a business that's come in and take us for everything they're worth and move on. So yeah, that's my answer.
Thank you very much. Mr. Shirey.
The town has a thing that's called the Bailey Bill. I think that was about 6 years ago, we put that together to help businesses on Main Street. They can apply to that, and they can use it as a facade improvement grant. They don't have to pay any of that money back, but it helps keep Fort Mill Main Street alive and looking fresh and looking good. Unfortunately, our Main Street is too short. It needs to be about another block long for it to grow and be like a normal Main Street in a different community. We need to recruit good businesses. We've turned down, there's a gentleman that wants to put in a switching station for semi-trucks. We don't want that here. We want businesses that are going to bring in jobs or supply jobs to the people that are in Fort Mill so that they can live here, work here, play here, raise their kids here. It's the traffic of people going out for work that causes half the jam ups that we deal with. So if we can get bigger and better companies that come in here, and I'm saying around a 2,000, 4,000 employee businesses, if we get a half dozen of those, it would be sitting awesome. It would be so awesome. And then we need to encourage the growth and expansion of the business that we already have.
All right. Thank you so much. Mr. Hudgens.
Yeah, I agree from an economic prosperity perspective. I think work with the different businesses. It's critically important, I think, to get businesses closer where people live because you have less traffic. Traffic's constantly been an issue in Fort Mill. So if you have people that are not driving to Charlotte or driving to Rock Hill, I think having, working hard, I know the town does do a lot of that to recruit businesses to make jobs for the citizens of the town of Fort Mill. I think it's something that supports small businesses as well, and things like the farmers market are outlets for some of those businesses to be able to come out and show their wares, the market, and different downtown vendors. So support that. Love the thing that they do on downtown Main Street to close it off many times a year. It's great small town stuff. I think that's as good as it gets for people being able to. The neighbors see neighbors, kids see their teachers, and other parents meeting other parents and things like that. So,
Thank you very much. Mr. Villardevo.
Yeah, so I feel like the town does a good job of attracting like smaller and mid-sized businesses. We've seen a lot of restaurants and like Soak here coming in here, and they seem to be succeeding at what they're doing. But me not having grown up here, I knew I was at a distinct advantage to folks that had grown up here. So I went out and I talked to the small business owners in town here, especially some of these more popular restaurants and breweries and things. And the one thing I heard most consistently from them is they, at one point, considered Rock Hill, and that's because Rock Hill has a small business development program and office, and they thought that would be something that would be beneficial to Fort Mill. So I think that's something that should be looked at and explored, see what sort of feasibility there is for that. But otherwise, that's it.
And Mr. Wolf.
Could you repeat the question? I want to make sure I answer what you're
Sure.
asking.
Economic prosperity. What is the biggest hurdle facing Fort Mill toward continued economic prosperity, and how do we compare to other municipalities facing similar issues?
Okay, so that's the focus has been to try to get off of residential and bring more commercial, recruit more commercial. We just opened a hospital. We're actually getting ready to open a new rehab hospital. Kingsley is a huge success, obviously working with Springs on that. And the idea of some of the new developments are MXU, so they're mixed use. So they actually have commercial and residential and shopping all in the same thing. So that's a big plus because it's, you don't have to drive to the store. It's all built kind of in that node. Mr. Hudgens mentioned nodes. So there's things there that goes back to planning and things like that. But the big focus is, we've got to get out of the residential business. We need to work with the county. We need to work with TK because a lot of times the developers actually play us against each other. The town will say, you can't build that here. And they'll say, that's fine. I can go 200 yards that away and I can build it in the county. So the county's got some new zoning coming down too that's going to really help us because we're all in this together.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll begin our 7th round of questioning, and we'll go to Mr. Powers first. Question number 7, transportation. With continued population growth in York County, transportation and traffic flow will always be a challenge. What or where should RFATS, which stands for the Rock Hill Fort Mill Area Transportation Study, place most of their attention that would benefit Fort Mill residents and businesses?
Where should they place most of their attention, you say?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm understanding the question correctly, which I hope I am, I would say there's such an emphasis on health nowadays, and people love to ride their bikes. We all went through the pandemic, and you couldn't find a bicycle out there. It was fantastic time to be alive when you think about it. I'd love to see bicycle lanes everywhere. I'd love to see buses that can run from Rock Hill. I'd love to see an extension of the light rail from Charlotte all the way through to Rock Hill, and ways to connect from Fort Mill to that light rail so that people can get on the train instead of getting in their car, and it will help alleviate traffic Most people are working in Charlotte and living in Fort Mill. That's what I'd like to see.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Shirey?
I'm going to say bridges and another bridge to go across the river. We only have two. We need a third somewhere. Not where the first proposal was, which was going to go through Mason's Bend. That would have been silly to put a bridge in the middle of a residential area. RFATS also oversees, we're going into, this is high level stuff, where RFATS also sees over Pennies for Progress. Always thought it would be a fabulous idea to split Pennies for Progress into two factions. One, to continue to pave roads, because they have study after study after study to show which roads need to be paved, and they're all graded A through F. But the second side of it could just be sitting there for bridges. And not just a new bridge over here, but to maintain the other bridges are very expensive. They cost a lot of money to bridge, they cost to build, they cost a lot of money to maintain, and you can't generate any money off of a bridge like you can a road. So I always thought that would be a good idea to split that into two factions. They could, and then even if they have to raise an additional penny to fund both sides of it, I think it would benefit the entire county, not just Fort Mill.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hudgens?
Sure. RFAT's very familiar with that. We've sat through, as a member of the Planning Commission, sat through a lot of continuing education classes, and we've had seminars with representatives from RFATs that will come to speak to us regarding what they're doing and the efforts they're putting forth. They were pivotal in making the Gold Hill Bridge, the new diverging diamond. That was a project that was spearheaded for them. These things have been on the list, on the radar for years and years, and they take a lot of time to happen with right-of-way acquisition and funds. They take working with the state and even federal funds to do some of these improvements. So they're quite involved. I think RFATs would like to see a little bit better representation maybe from Fort Mill to be able to do some things there. But Sutton Road, Highway 160, those are all plans now that if you look it up, there are diagrams that show some of the upcoming plans to be done that RFATs has been heavily involved with. But they are definitely a great help. Would like to do some more projects throughout Fort Mill utilizing their funds.
Thank you very much. Mr. Villardo?
Mind repeating that question
Sure.
for me?
Transportation. With continued population growth in York County, transportation and traffic flow will always be a challenge. What or where should RFATS, stands for Rock Hill Fort Mill Area Transportation Study, place most of their attention that would benefit Fort Mill residents and businesses?
Excellent, thank you. So from my perspective as a driver in this town and having talked to the citizens of Fort Mill, I do hear a lot about bridges. We need another bridge over Catawba. Where are we going to put it? Who knows? I do know that there was a rejected plan previously, but that's going to help alleviate things. We got to find a way to route a lot of this traffic flow coming from Indian Land away from Fort Mill. Those kind of improvements. I do like the improvements I'm seeing with the diverging diamonds and the upcoming improvements to 160. It's going to get worse before it gets better, but it's going to get better.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wolf?
As Mr. Hudgens mentioned, the Planning Commission works with RFATs. We also do ongoing training about traffic patterns and other things like that. So I agree that I think the bridge, to where the bridge was supposed to go was off White's Road at the time to direct some of that traffic coming up from 521, which would help. And as we mentioned, RFATs needs to work with the Pennies. I think Pennies for Progress is one of the best projects that we've ever put together in the Carolinas. Major arteries have been identified and submitted by the town to RFATs. I know 21 bypass is one. That's why we're four-laning it from Cherry Road all the way to the state line. Because when there's an accident on I-77, the first thing they say is get off on Highway 21, which is probably the worst thing you could possibly do. Also, we've got the interchanges that, as Mr. Hudgens mentioned, it takes a while to get the right-of-ways and stuff. Gold Hill, Sutton Road, and Highway 160 has all been identified. And then the Panthers are moving in down there, which just blew everything up, but that's going to be a different pot of money.
Thank you very much. Mr. Garrison?
I think, like everybody has said so far, a lot of the traffic that we have coming through town, it's not just Fort Mill residents moving around. It's people coming from Rock Hill, coming from Indian Land, trying to get around. And I do agree. We definitely need a third bridge somewhere across the river. Light rail, it's a great idea. My son loves riding it. Nobody else rides it. Buses, I can't tell you how many times I've been going down 77, see the Cats bus going down to Rock Hill, and it's completely empty. It's a great idea. Nobody actually uses it. So again, getting the 160, if there's a way we could, I'm not going to use the word bypass because we built one of those, and all it did was just open up new land for development. So some way where we could divert the traffic going around town like what the bypass was supposed to be. The diverging diamonds, those are great ideas. So they have some up in Concord. They work. They're actually, it's going to take a while to get used to it, but I think a lot of things are already in the works now that will definitely help moving forward.
Thank you very much. We'll begin question number 8 with Mr. Shirey. Question number 8, tax revenue expenses. What do you believe should be the town's top 3 expense items over the next 4 to 5 years, and do we have the necessary revenue to cover these expenses?
Number 1 would be what we call a UDO. It's a Unified Development Ordinance. We started it about 3 years ago, and it went sideways because there was too many hands in the pot. I think we need to revisit that and bring that in. That would help bring a lot of our codes that we operate under up. It covers everything from what the police officers carry and get paid all the way to where the roads will go. If it gets a sidewalk, what kind of sidewalk, both sides, is a juggernaut of a piece of legislation. I'd like for that to be number 1 thing that we would do. It would solve a lot of issues that the town has been suffering from lately. The second one would be a study as to Main Street and what we can do as to expanding Main Street so that we can bring in more local business or help the businesses that are there to expand into theirs. If it's going up the hill, if it's going down White Street, if it's going back the other way, down Confederate here. The third would be we have a fabulous staff that works for the town, and they are tireless, and they will do anything, not just for the council, not just for the mayor, for the community in general. And I think that we need to revisit to make sure that they are paid the wages that they should be, which they have gotten a raise ever since I've been in office.
Thank you so much. Mr. Hudgens.
I think from tax revenue expenses, I know in identifying the way that growth would pay for growth, when you collect money, when the town collects money, it has 3 years to spend that money. Those have to be on projects that are already identified. So I think the ideal would be to work together with the different areas, different representatives of the town, and identify some of those areas. I know wastewater treatment is a big thing. I know they're working on improvements or planned improvements there around where the new bit of road work is being done coming off Sutton Road. But I think to try to raise more tax revenue expenses, but not just to get that from growth, paying for growth, but we need to identify these specific projects, whether it be things that the police would need to better equip them, or fire departments. There's a lot of different ways to be able to do that and utilize that.
Thank you very much. Mr. Villardeau.
So as new guy to the scene here, I've been on the planning board for a decade or on the town council. So as an outsider looking in, I'm thinking pedestrian/bicycle improvements. The Main Street expansion has always been something that I thought would be super beneficial to the town, and it would really sort of grow that small hometown feel we have here in Fort Mill. And I'm a bit concerned about how our emergency services have been impacted by this growth. How are response times? Do we have sufficient response to emergencies?
We're stellar. So I was just at a meeting this weekend, and we are in the top of the state, I'm proud to say.
Continue.
Anyway, as these big developments over in Springfield and Crossroads continue to grow, I just want to make sure that we are addressing emergency services properly.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wolf?
So you mentioned the Unified Development Ordinance. I'd love to get that done. The Planning Commission spent years on that. It's a great update of all our zoning and guidelines and everything. It's a great piece. We'd love to get that pushed through. As we mentioned, impact fees can only be used for certain things, more capital type projects, so that's great. That should free up some operational money to do other things with. So we need to readdress the zoning to be more focused on commercial and help limit residential. So there's one of the things we need to do. And I think we really need to buy any available land that's available if we can fund. Fort Mill's bordered on all sides by other entities, so we can't expand. Rock Hill right now is going in and annexing in 500 acres down I-77. Fort Mill doesn't have that benefit. So once the land's gone and used, it's gone and it's used. And that's why we've been pushing for green space and trails and all that, because we can't just grow out that. We're very limited on how much we have to work with.
Thank you very much. Mr. Garrison.
So the top three tax revenue expenses. So the day after I filed to run for election here, I contacted every department head with the town, and I wanted to sit down with them and I wanted to find out exactly what the town sees as needs now and down the road. And some of the things I got out of that were, our public works and our utilities department. That's the backbone of our town right there. The biggest problems they have is employee retention and being able to pay a competitive wage so those folks aren't leaving on a daily basis. Again, addressing the parking downtown. An idea I've had for years, and again, I don't know the feasibility of it, would be where we have the farmers market, paving that right there, maybe a pedestrian bridge going across here to better access Main Street, since we're trying to make that kind of the focus. Again, and just improving the walkability and connectability throughout the town.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Powers.
Would you mind repeating?
Sure. Tax revenue expenses. What do you believe should be the town's top 3 expense items over the next 4 to 5 years? And do we have the necessary revenue to cover these expenses?
I cannot tell you, as Matt said, we're newbies here. I can't tell you about the revenue. I can tell you, to me, the top expenses should be infrastructure, infrastructure, infrastructure. One of the things I want to bring up as well is everyone seems to be thinking that Main Street something should happen with Main Street. We know it's the focal point of the town. I also went to, as a newbie, the council. I went to and spoke to every single department, or tried to, I should say. And I keep hearing things like, we can't do this. There's a roadblock for this. This can't happen. I'm going to dig into why and solve those issues. One of the things that I am really good at is solving problems. And I feel like the current council has not been doing that as well as they could.
Can I just say something about that? Unfortunately, the town can't just do whatever the town feels like doing. We have rules and laws that govern what council can do, the town can do, the county can do. We're sandwiched between the river, which is dictated by Duke Power. We're sandwiched by the county, and the county tells us what to do. The other county next door, Lancaster and Charlotte, and all these people hold their own line. So to say that the town doesn't know how to fix a problem isn't quite true, because there's a lot of hoops you have to do. You can sit here and say, yeah, this is great, let's do that. But there's a lot of hoops you got to go through in order to make things happen.
Okay.
May I have a moment?
1 minute. Yes, sir.
Thank you. One of the other things I've noticed about watching town council, I spent the last few months listening to every town council I could. I've heard more deflection and saying what we do well than looking at ourselves and being transparent and accountable. That needs to change. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll begin our last round of questioning. We'll begin with Mr. Hudgens. What is one thing that you want voters to know about you? What do you bring to the table? What are your qualifications?
I think it's all goes down to experience to me. I mean, we've got 13 years serving the town in a volunteer position. Didn't get paid for Board of Zoning Appeals, for Planning Commission. It's out of love for town. It's out of a passion. I said before in the opening statement, I love this town. My kids love this town. I want them to come back here, and when they come back from college and from their careers, I want them settled down here. And hard to think about grandkids, but want to have them around here. But I love this town. I'm doing it for the passion. It's been great going out and seeing more people and shaking hands and talking about issues, and it's been a lot of fun, probably taking much longer than some of these conversations that I ever had anticipated, but to have left there with such an even greater feeling of what Fort Mill is. You know, and I mentioned before, waving at people going down Main Street. I love that. I don't know a lot of these people, but I love waving at them, and they'll wave back. You know, they're almost surprised, but it's a passion for the town.
Thank you very much. Mr. Villardevo.
You know, one of the greatest and probably most difficult things I've ever had to experience happened to me about a year ago today. I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. I used that as an opportunity to improve my life. I found a community within Parkinson's disease, and this community is right here in Fort Mill. This community surrounded me in all my efforts as a Parkinson's ambassador to raise awareness for that disease. I wholly believe you only get out of life what you put in. This is my opportunity to put in. I believe I can take this town in the right direction. No, I'm not a slick, polished politician. That's come off crystal clear tonight. But I have a passion for this. I believe I can be an effective change agent. And I don't have all these great ideas and plans because I want to get in and figure things out, listen to people, and develop a plan from there. That's really all I got.
All right. Mr. Wolf.
I bring a lifetime of experience growing up in this community, current working knowledge of the challenges we face, and an understanding of how the town operates. This allows me the opportunity to hit the ground running and make an immediate impact. Although we'd all prefer the small town that we used to know, we need to acknowledge all the blessings we have to celebrate. Small towns have one of two things: they grow or they die. If you travel to many small towns in South Carolina, you'll find that where the mills or other major employers have closed, you'll find many storefronts vacant, many people out of work. Fort Mill faces neither, but the challenge is no less severe. We need to work together, the town, the county, TKK, and most importantly, our residents, to manage and steer the growth so our children will have the opportunity to raise their families in this great place we call home. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm trying to serve.
Thank you very much. Mr. Garrison.
I think it starts with passion. Everyone here has a passion for this town and wants to help better the community. I think, me personally, I think my time, I was a firefighter. I was a paid firefighter in Kannapolis. I was a volunteer at Flint Hill and here in Fort Mill. I've been up at 2 a.m. Running fire calls, running wrecks, doing those things. I love this community. I've always been a volunteer in this community, and a small business owner. Small business owner. I do everything from change the oil to to HR, to estimating, to project managing, to doing it all, to scrubbing the toilets. So on a daily basis, I have to come up with new and unique ways to get things done, and I think that I would bring a fresh voice to the town and a fresh perspective on how to get things done.
Thank you very much. Mr. Powers.
Please repeat the question.
Sure.
Thank you.
What is one thing you want voters to know about you? What do you bring to the table? What are your qualifications?
Thank you. Like I said in the beginning, I'm not a politician. I don't have anything to gain by taking this position. I want to be a voice for the people who don't have a voice. I want to encourage others to come to the table, to have their voices heard. The town has done really good things as far as increasing notifications for people and such. Speaking of which, if you didn't know, which I didn't, on the Fort Mill sc.gov website, you can actually sign up for notifications. I think the most important thing I could say right now is that no one probably knew that lives in Fort Mill, most people anyway. So I want people to do that, and I want them to come to the council and feel like they can sit there and say what they need to say and not be met with, well, we do this really good, or don't attack this person, or such. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Shirey.
I've had the pleasure of serving on Fort Mill for 8 years. I guess I'm the one they're referring to as the polished politician, but I'm really not. I'm just a lumberjockey. I remodel houses and build houses. That's it. The only reason I know as much as I do is because I'm sitting in this seat. There's a huge learning curve that comes into it. I already have established relationships with the county, operating groups around the town, clubs that are about the town, the YMCA. My track record proves myself. I helped with amphitheater. I helped with the complex, turning that over to the YMCA, helping the school board put in the swimming pool up there, taking in the 80 plus acres down by the river, which we're going to develop that out into a giant park system. I love this town. I'm not going anywhere. And if you think if you take my seat, I'm going anywhere, I'll be sitting in the audience questioning everything that you do, just like I get questioned, because this job is thankless. You're basically a human pinata, but I'd never have another job. I love it.
Well, thank you so much. And gentlemen, thank you so much. That concludes tonight's candidate forum. We certainly appreciate your willingness to serve. You certainly have given your time, talent, and treasures, and we wish you a lot of luck on November the 2nd. Residents, thank you so much for your interest in the candidates, this event, and the business community, and the democratic process overall. Please do not forget to vote. Mark it on your calendars. It is Tuesday, November the 2nd, 2021. Also, absentee voting is available. Finally, the York County Regional Chambers, Fort Mill, TKK Area Council, and the Fort Mill Economic Partners thank everyone who had a role in putting this event together. You'll be able to watch this candidate forum on the virtual platforms on the York County Regional Chamber, the Town of Fort Mill, and the Fort Mill Economic Partners. Thank you so much. Good luck. Get out and vote November the 2nd. Have a great night.